Australia's population grew by 1.8% in the 12 months to September, adding 484,000 people to the national head count, according to the latest figures from the ABS. Now that puts our total population at 27.3 million, with overseas migration once again leading the charge, albeit at a slower pace than earlier quarters. While the post-pandemic migration surge has moderated a little, we're still seeing 618,000 arrivals versus 238,000 departures, giving us a net overseas migration figure of 380,000 for that year. This continues a tapering trend, but still marks a major contributor to the housing pressure being felt across the country. Western Australia led the states in population growth again, rising 2.5% for the year. Victoria followed at 2.1% and Queensland at 2.0%. In contrast, Tasmania's population barely grew, increasing just 0.3% over the same period. At the state level, the numbers that are being added to the various populations, New South Wales has added 121,000 residents to reach 8.5 million, while Victoria has added 145,000 to reach just over 7 million. Queensland population has climbed to 5.6 million with 112,000 new residents over the year. Now these increases represent real housing demand across all tenures, ownership, rental, and also in particular for emergency accommodation. But while net overseas migration is slowing a little, a separate but related trend is gaining traction again: regional migration. The Regional Australia Institute's latest Regional Movers Index revealed that internal migration, that's people moving from one part of Australia to another, while it has slowed compared to the COVID boom, it remains a long-term structural trend. The RMI shows a fourfold increase in migration from capital cities to places like Bendigo in Victoria and Bunbury in Western Australia. Sydney-siders still account for the bulk of outflows, 59%, but their share is falling. Melburnians, on the other hand, are rising, making up now 40% of the net capital city outflows. Greater Geelong and Bendigo are the clear winners in Victoria. Bendigo in particular is surging off the charts with a 63% quarterly growth in migration and a fourfold increase year on year. It's now second only to Bunbury in Western Australia as the fastest growing regional centre in Australia. So what happens when people move? Well, house prices tend to follow. Bunbury's median house price jumped 28% in 2024, the highest growth of any Western Australian regional centre. Geelong's rise in popularity is also pressuring housing stocks and housing values. What this all signals is that the city to regional migration story isn't going away, it's simply evolving. And it's not just young professionals making the shift. According to new research from the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute, older wealthy Australians are leading the regional migration trend now, motivated by lifestyle factors and affordability. Now this shift has profound implications, not just for property values, but for rental stress in areas traditionally considered affordable. Professor Nicole Gurran from the University of Sydney notes that regional migration creates a ripple effect, pushing up rents and home prices not only in high growth towns, but also in outlying areas as low income earners are displaced. And she said, increased pressure on housing costs in the region creates knock-on effects for affordability in neighbouring communities. And it's especially critical that we ramp up investment in social and emergency housing to offset these shifts. So what's the bottom line? Well, Australia's housing supply very much continues to lag population growth. Migration, both international migration and domestic, remains a powerful driver of housing demand. And while big city markets get the media spotlight, regional areas are where the most intense growth and pressure are now playing out. Investors, policymakers and developers should be making notes. This isn't a COVID blip, it's a decade-long demographic realignment, and ignore it at your peril.